Thanks for the reminder. So obviously, most of you know me. I'm Michelle. I'm the associate assisting with all of these seminars. I've worked with the BC LTBIA on and off for most of my adult life. And yeah, so we've been doing these seminars, which most of you have attended, most of them, which has been great. And so do you say Rothoblaas? Is that how you say it?
You can say Rothoblaas, you can say Rothoblaas. As long as you're saying it, we're happy.
Perfect. So they've generously donated, I guess their need to share education to us. And Phil is going to be doing 2 different presentations. And he's done a number of these, I guess he said. And so if you guys want to give him the room, and then I think after each one, there's going to be like a chance to ask questions and talk about what was presented, and then we can just open up the floor. All right, Phil, go for it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And hopefully everyone can hear me okay, and just let us know if you can't. My name is Phil Greenfield. I work for Rothoblaas Canada as a technical sales representative. My region covers Alberta and most of BC except for the island and the lower mainland. But obviously a big region, and happy to have all those attending. And some of you might know me or might know Rothoblaas. We're going to go we'll touch on a little bit of history or a little bit of background of the company itself. But my main presentations today are, I'm going to say, on the light side. I think they're kind of fun. We're not going to get super technical or hopefully super, involved. But kind of 2 different themes, all timber related, and for the most part, with the idea to inspire you folks and maybe give you some new ideas. And the first one we're going to get right into, we titled it "Staying on Brand," and it is so titled "Staying on Brand." And Rothoblaas HQ builds a new warehouse out of mass timber. We're going to look at why, how, and some construction details. So, like I said, some of you folks know me, some of you do not. Rothoblaas is providing technical building solutions for the timber building industry throughout the world, all over the world rather. And, those categories can include tapes and membranes, fall protection, soundproofing, tools, timber tools, plates, and connectors for timber, as well as a huge range of fasteners. And we are celebrating our 30th year in business this year. There's a few stats from the company as well. Our staff, the markets that we serve, the amount of boxes that leave the warehouse every year is quite staggering. The languages spoken at the warehouse, and even here in Canada, a few different languages going, obviously. And it's pretty impressive to be at the headquarters in Italy and hear the customer service folks answer in Russian, in Italian, in German, in French, in Spanish, almost all at the same time. It makes me feel a little inadequate with my English and basic French. But moving on. In the spring of 2020, Rothoblaas began a large warehouse expansion project at our headquarters in northern Italy. This expansion will effectively double the existing warehouse space and also allow for new offices and more. Most companies, most people would probably turn towards concrete and steel for a utilitarian building like this. However, we chose to put our money where our mouth is on this one and built this structure completely out of mass timber. Rothoblaas is a company centered on the idea that innovation never stops. We release new products every year and are constantly improving our existing offerings. We also support, like the BC LTBA, We also support and push for further growth and development of the timber building industry. To prove that we stand behind what we sell and the industry we are involved in, our CEO, Robert Blass, decided that timber and sustainability would be key in any future expansions. As some of you may know, the construction industry is targeted as a big polluter all over the world. This comes in forms of resource extraction, processing, and of course, landfill waste. However, building with timber, especially when it's locally sourced, immediately lowers the carbon footprint of the building and can actually work to capture carbon in the processed wood materials. This in turn results in positive forestry practices and growing more material, of course, in the future. To me, this is a truly renewable resource. You can just see there in my small stats some of the kind of competing structural materials compared to timber as it relates to carbon output. So I think this group is an easy sell on that one. More wood, less CO2. You guys can use that. There's a few stats from the building itself. Of course, you got to put your metric hat on for this, but go over the designers and the architects and really what the building is made up of. So that results in over 34,000 square feet total. The building's over 60 feet tall, actually just over 65 feet. And local trades and suppliers were used throughout this build from start to finish. The South Tyrol region, where Rothoblaas is situated, is a region full of history, both ancient and more recent, and the Adige, or Etch River, depending on what language you're speaking in the region, is central to much of it. This portion near the city of Bolzano was diverted and channeled in the mid-1800s to prevent flooding, ease transportation along the river, and reclaim portions of this fertile valley. Excuse me. Although this reclamation serves the local wineries and orchards very well, it is, of course, not the most suitable ground to build on, at least unprepared. With this fact in mind, the site work commenced by driving large pilings deep into the earth to support a raft-type concrete foundation. Of course, last year's spring brought on many difficulties, not to mention a record rainfall. And as many builders participating will know, as soon as you dig a hole, that's when it starts to rain. And last year in 2020, it started raining in the spring and never seemed to stop. The massive slab was tied to these pilings and a structural rebar grid added and concrete poured. And as you can see from the picture on the right, that is a huge amount of rebar and a large amount of concrete and a true raft foundation and a super solid start for any structure on top of that, and totally necessary in this location. The building itself uses timber for not only the main structure, support, and roof, but also the warehouse shelving itself. All the CLT, LVL, and glulam was sourced within 50 miles of the site. As this region has a rich timber building tradition, that's why we're there in the first place, it was not difficult to source quality material and a trained workforce for such a project. However, building out of almost completely timber did not simplify the project and took many, many hours of design, redesign, and prefabrication effort. And again, I'm sure today's participants are aware of that effort as well. It's all about design and the prefab work in this industry. And I'll just go back there and show the picture on the right showing one of the main, call it towers of the building. We're going to get more information on that in this next slide. 20 glulam towers measuring roughly 8 feet wide, 3 feet thick, and 65 feet high are the main backbone to the structure. And we can see them being prepped and lifted in the last couple photos. And a pretty good photo of the cross section. And of course, all kinds of elevated work on this project, working at heights, I should say. To give you a cross section look of the building itself, of the plan. And of course, as I showed you before, in this one, we were dealing with a high water table. And on top of that, wind and seismic loading had to be considered on this structure. Of course, we did use some of our own materials in this build, some of our own hardware, I should say. And I hope we got a pretty good deal. This type of metal shear plate was used throughout the structure. And this one's called the Titan plate. It's a timber to timber shear plate. And I believe we used our screws rather than nails to make the completion, to complete the connection rather. Various timber building methods were used throughout the project, including these aluminum knife plate connections over the office portion of the building, and also the portion that ties back into the existing or the original building is how they perform that as well. These photos show the internal grid of the building that not only acts as structure, as I said before, but also as the warehouse shelving. So the timbers are kind of doing double duty in this case. You can also see the large CLT panels, so cross laminated timber panels, were used to sheet or sheathe the building. And it would be interesting to see how one of those great big CLT panels compares to the price of a piece of 3/4 inch plywood these days. Might not be as far off as we think.
Yeah, you may as well sheet it in gold if you're going to do that.
Exactly, exactly. So those CLT panels were, again, might have been a bargain if you compared to 3/4 inch ply right now. Not only is this one of the tallest wood warehouses in Europe, but also among the first to be fully automated. So using conveyors, lifts, and sliding shelving to speed and simplify the picking process. And these are all being installed now and will be coming online soon. This addition, like I said before, will double the capacity of the headquarter warehouse. And a good way, kind of a way we can imagine this capacity, I thought, was currently we can store 11,500 pallets worth of material. And after the expansion is complete, that storage will more than double the capacity of up to about 26,000 pallets worth of material in that one building. As I mentioned before, we're tying the new structure back to the original structure with timber, of course, and a couple of photos showing that process, kind of that final structure, and then beginning the exterior cladding as well. And that just happened probably within the last 2 or 3 weeks here. And of course, the scenery around the building is not too hard to look at either. We are coming up on approximately 1 year of this project being underway, probably just over 1 year now. And final stages are in the works. Part of this quick timeline is by using prefabricated timber elements similar to what today's participants do. So whether it's CLT, whether it's round log, square log, D log, most of the BCLTA members are doing prefabricated timber elements. And they all know that, yes, it's a lot of work beforehand, but the real benefit comes on site when the real work begins. And it usually pays off in the end by doing it that way. So looking at a few technical details of the building now, those massive columns, those 65-foot high columns, acting as the spine of this building, needed an equally large hold down. These, of course, were custom made and fastened with our own certified LBS anchor screws, which is specifically a metal plate to timber anchor screw. I showed you a couple of shots of this detail, just a different way to hang some of these great big glue lamps. And this was done with our Alu Maxi concealed bracket. This one, it looks like, was the solid aluminum bracket. So you make that connection on this one with our self-drilling dowels. A few more products that we used, a few more in-house products that we used during and on the expansion. So something as simple as a metal bracket, support bracket, a little more evolved like our UV stable membranes for the exterior, some high-end tapes to keep everything tight and wind and rain and water tight, some timber tools to bring some of those massive elements together, and then even some fireproofing / fire rated products to ensure safety throughout the project. And again, I'm pretty sure we got a good deal on that stuff. I hope the discount was decent. So wrapping up this portion of the presentation, through floods, a pandemic, global uncertainty, and of course, rising material cost, this project is beginning to see the finish line, although there's still much work to be done. And the next steps include the interior outfitting. We need to install the photovoltaic cells on the roof, which will make up the bulk of our electricity use. There's already PV cells on the existing portion, and we're gonna widen that scope on this new portion and should be net zero by the end of it all. We're going to bring automation online, which is a huge portion with all those moving parts and the conveyors and the lifts and the robots, for lack of a better description. Cladding completion, of course, and of course it'll be timber. And then we move stock and staff in. We hope this building serves our 22 international branches well and stands as an example of what can be accomplished with modern wood buildings. And this type of construction is completely modular and could be duplicated anywhere to fit many users' needs. As timber professionals being part of this presentation today, very well could be working on something similar very soon. So thank you so much for your time on portion number 1.
It's pretty neat to see just the scale of when they had the scissor lift there, how small the guys were to the, like did you say they were 60 feet?
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, so it's like an apartment building, basically, a good size apartment building being used as a warehouse, we could say, to give it some scope. So if there's any questions or comments about that, we could address them now, and I can go back through any slides if anyone has any points to make, or we can continue as well.
It's sounding really good, Phil. I'm here. I've just got my camera shut off.
Oh, hi, Patty.
The person on the phone number, who have we got here?
I think that's one of my colleagues, actually, Patty.
Okay.
That's one of our colleagues from Northeast US. So.
Oh, great.
Welcome him.
Hi,
Yeah.
welcome.
That's Jim.
And then I see Dave has joined us from Kettle River. Good to see you.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you, Dave. Have you got some of your crew with you?
I don't see them there. Everybody's working from remotely, so it doesn't look like anyone picked up today.
Okay. Yeah, we thought a few of your other guys were going to be here. So.
Yeah, I was expecting 2 of them, but.
Yeah, they're probably working.
Yes, that's a good thing.
Is
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, well, yeah, sounding great so far, Phil.
okay.
Good information.
Yeah, it's like I said, that one's kind of a neat, fun one,
Mm.
and not too intense. But if everyone's clear on that one, we can certainly move on.
Yeah, let's go for the next one.
Okay. And you guys can see everything. I don't know if the video feed is in the way or not, but oops. Oops, now I'm messing things up. Here we go. Okay, so part 2 of today's presentation with me, Phil Greenfield from Rothoblaas. Again, a slightly different theme. I think this one's even more fun than the last. And again, really an effort to inspire you folks and kind of show off maybe a little bit. So part 2 is called Timber Projects, Big and Small, Construction and Design Ideas from Around the World. And these are projects all shared within our internal sharing platform by my colleagues. So like Jim on the line from the States and from all over the world. These are projects that our salespeople have contributed to show what their customers are working on, and just kind of a snapshot of buildings big and small, literally from around the world that I think will interest you folks. So let's start. Our Canadian team is focused on our local clients, of course. However, Rothoblaas as a whole has a truly international reach. This widens our experience and demands products that adapt to various building methods, design traditions, and climates. Within our company's internal sharing platform, it's called Microsoft Yammer. Some of you folks might use it as well. The 300 plus member team has a chance for real-time discussion. This platform shares successes, issues, big sales, partnerships, new products, and more to the point of today's presentation, interesting projects from builders around the world. These range vastly in size and scope and may inspire some of today's participants. I'll say before this part that, please note we're salespeople, we're not professional photographers, and we're not always on the job site at the moment of completion either, or when it's perfectly staged. So you have to bear that in mind. But we'll go into some various building methods here, a little bit of log, some timber, some mass timber, and some hybrid of the two, and both large and small, like I said before. We're going to highlight some differences in building strategies from around the world, both on the basic and a little more technical side. So as I mentioned in the last presentation, Rothoblaas headquarters is from northern Italy towards the Austrian border. Of course, our Canadian headquarters is in Delta, BC, but we're going to go to Europe to start today's tour. And I thought this one was pretty neat. The company itself is actually called Brett House, and this little guy is a foldable CLT compact structure. These range, they've got a few different styles, a few different shapes, but they range from about 200 to 500 square feet in total. And I should have mentioned, this is from our colleague in Latvia, so in the Baltics. Made in Latvia out of 90% local timber, these modular and movable structures offer a quick and durable solution for extra space, a home office, weekend getaway, or even a tiny home. And if you're anything like me, over the last year and a little bit, Some extra space, an extra room or two in the house would have been fantastic. And these are a great solution for that. So maybe something we could develop here in Canada, something similar. Takes apparently from their website, it takes roughly, half a day to get this off the truck and completely set up, which is pretty cool. And to look at a technical detail on this one, the builders wanted an open joint cladding design, meaning their siding doesn't come quite together, but still needed a weather-tight envelope, of course. This was achieved with one of our technical membranes that is permanently UV stable. This happened to be a monolithic membrane called the Traspear Evo UV 210, one of our probably heavier options, one of our more durable options, and quite popular option as well. We're going to stay in the Baltics for this next example. It's another Latvian example, actually, of innovative timber joinery. This is a larch species, and this pre-span building is achieved with metal plates and our STA smooth dowels to complete that connection. And I just thought it was a super clean, super simple free span structure that I enjoyed. Moving a little further north in Europe, airtightness, durability, and timber are all themes in these Norwegian examples. On the left, we have a private home in a very scenic setting. And on the right, a newly finished distillery that was completely clad in timber. This Slovenian school is a literal example of thinking outside the box and using timber to create a bright and healthy space. Wood is used throughout to enhance the warm feeling of this early childhood educational facility. And you can see throughout this building, you can see DLT, so dowel laminated timber, CLT, and glulam for both the finishes and the structure.
Is that a live roof?
That is, yeah, it is, or will be. Yes, you're right. Yeah, I was just thinking it'd be great to see some Canadian schools looking like this, a little more unique, a little more healthy, I think, as well, a little more inspiring potentially than the concrete we typically use. And this might shock some of the more structural minded people on today's presentation, but it's an interesting technical detail to deal with the HVAC requirements in this building. And they used our VGU 45-degree metal plate washers here to help achieve this joint, which is a massive metal gusset, we'll call it, literally in the middle of the structural glulam members for this building. I thought was kind of interesting and somewhat unique.
So if you just drilled a hole, obviously you would completely ruin the structural integrity. So just by using this, you're strengthening it. Yeah, you strengthening and tying the two pieces together, and allowing a chase, of course. You could imagine the building inspector's eyes light up when he walks on site and sees this, if let's say if it was in Canada, but of course completely engineered. Now
That's
we're
pretty
moving.
cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Sorry. It's a beautiful structure, really. It's very unique.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on, we're going to leave Europe. We're going to go across a continent or two and land in China. Our colleagues in China are doing impressive work and doing a great job servicing this massive emerging market. This first example is a small hotel that they've built out of some traditional timber framing and joinery. This highway rest stop is a great example of the quality, craftsmanship, and uniqueness of timber design from this country. And I thought that was pretty funky design for a highway rest stop, a bathroom basically. don't think you'd see that too often in Canada. And in this particular project, they employed our VGZ, fully threaded cylindrical head screw, to deal with some of those rather narrow timber members and quite involved joinery. So instead of some wood on wood joinery in some places, you actually can use that screw as a metal connector, as a structural connector. The Chinese market also seems quite interested in our energy efficiency products, such as our durable tapes and membranes. And I believe both these examples will be passive homes when completed. Like I said, we don't always get there at the, for turnkey process of the build. Sometimes we show up when it's half done, and that's the case here. But I think it still shows off quite a beautiful and unique structure. This is a timber bridge near Shanghai, and of course the deck itself, the platform is metal, but they use timber for the upper portion of it. And that's glulam actually. This massive agricultural hall was built with 5 timber arches that actually originated here in Canada, here in BC. The building is still under construction. However, it is a good example of international cooperation that spans materials, design, and know-how. And I know BC LTBA members do a lot of international work, so you're probably well versed in that international market and cooperation that comes from it. And here we can see some of those rather large, very, very big curved glulam sections for the arch that did come from BC, being staged, being sanded, stained, and detailed well on site in China. Now we're leaving China. There's no real process to my tour here. We're just kind of skipping around. We're going to go across an ocean again and turn to the South American continent. And we're going to start by looking at this 3-story block house, which is what they called it. We would call it a square timber dovetail log home. And this one is located on the edge of the Andes in Argentina. In that particular home, 9,000 pieces of our HBS countersink screws were used. And the expand band, the self-expanding sealing tape, was used between each and every log for air sealing. I believe they actually used 2 stripes to achieve air tightness on each layer. Okay, we're moving around South America a little bit now. This post and beam structure outside of Quito, Ecuador, shows a good example of using timber screws to connect a concrete composite floor topping, and they also act as rebar chairs in this case. So it's a great example of a post and beam structure, but really I wanted to show you kind of the nerdy detail of tying in the concrete floor to the timber structure below. And you can do that with a timber screw. And you have the added benefit of being able to tie your rebar grid to those screws and not having chairs or anything like that. And whether it's on a small home in Ecuador or commercial type building in Canada or the States, the concrete composite topping is quite popular or almost typical for mass timber projects. Going south again in South America, about as far south as you can get, this mountain refuge in Patagonia, Chile, shows off a timber-clad exterior and a timber frame interior. And both membranes shown are Rothoblaas products and chosen for this specific site. So inside, a super tight vapor barrier, and on the exterior, a heavy-duty exterior membrane that can stand up to the weather extremes in that part of the world. Moving up into Central America now, we're going to look at this handcrafted, what I call screw laminated timber that was used in a hotel lounge in Costa Rica. And I believe this is one of the first times, at least these folks used laminated timbers and actually did the laminations themselves, not on site, but nearby. And of course, a lot of glue, and actually used our fully threaded screws for both clamping and added reinforcement in these curved, very large beams. We're going to move out of the Central America and into the Caribbean. And this is a private beach house in the island of Barbados. And they used tropical hardwoods for the structure and finishes. And I've got another Caribbean example, and both of these used a number of different tropical hardwoods that included Brazilian cherry, ipe, and some different types of rosewood. And those are typical species from this region. And this next project, actually, both of these projects are first for our colleagues in that area. So this project happened to be a first for a salesperson on the island of Antigua. And this is a small beach resort. And if you're wondering, yes, I have put my name on the list to be the next salesperson in that region. It's rather long, but my name is in the hat. I love BC, I love Alberta, but you know, can you blame me? The last two projects were high spec, of course, and both in marine environments. The clients there chose our EVO galvanic coated screws and our stainless steel finish screws to deal with the salt spray, to deal with the marine environments, the constant wind and rust potential. So by using the galvanized version of our structural screw and then stainless version of our finish screw, you're well on your way for durability in those cases. And they come in a bunch of different shapes and sizes. Moving north again, we're coming to North America, and we're going to look at this really cool looking timber pavilion that was built in Tennessee with help and input from the Timber Framers Guild. And they used becoming very popular, southern yellow pine for the structure. We're going to look at another timber frame pavilion, this time from a colleague Jim in Vermont. A little more traditional timber frame methods used in this one, I would say. And you may have noticed on that last example that no angled braces were used on this open walled structure. This feature was achieved by using our X10 crucifix style post base that acts as a moment connection for those columns. So that alleviates the need for knee braces when designed properly. It gives you a little bit more openness, a little less structure, or a little less timber to be visible. Just a different look all around that you can do with a simple post base. It comes in a few different shapes and sizes. This is actually one of my clients in BC on the island, and this is an oak timber frame, a rough sawn oak timber frame going up on Vancouver Island. Quite a traditional design. However, they use modern hardware and connectors for the structure itself. And on this far right picture, you can see they used our UVT dovetail connector to make that super strong timber joint for when the truss is sitting on the lower columns. This building happened to be so nice that we actually used it as a rendering in our catalog. So if you have super nice projects, send me photos of them if you use our screws or whatever. And you might see it in our catalog. That'll be around for ages after that, which is pretty neat. Now, this isn't an example of working safe at heights, so just bear that in mind. But it is an example of one of our newer kind of highly anticipated products, which is our self-adhesive breathable membrane. In this one case, we see a guy precariously perched on a CLT home in Quebec, and then a super tight job done again by one of Jim's clients in the northeast of the states. I can't exactly remember. I want to say Maine for that project. And again, a popular item, whether it's ours or other manufacturers, becoming for using it as your WRB, your exterior membrane is a self-adhered option. And that's ours. That's our version, the Transpire Adhesive 260. And the last two projects showed builders using this. And again, like I said, it is becoming a popular option for exterior wind, rain, and air protection. You know, nothing super exciting about this building other than it is mass timber. It's an industrial building. It's a commercial space, so they didn't need to use timber here per se, but they did. Just showing you that you can use timber for just about anything. And this commercial mass timber project was in Washington State. And they again used our Alu Maxi concealed knife plate connectors here. And this one, they used the connection with pre-drilled and a smooth dowel to complete the connection. There's a few examples from my clients actually, you know, on the left, we see a kind of a funky pergola from some timber builders in Alberta. In the middle is a cathedral, really nice cathedral ceiling built by a local timber framer in my hometown of Golden, BC. And that's all local Douglas fir used for that. And then on the right, down the road a little further in Invermere, one of my clients who builds a net zero home. So high efficient homes, a little bit of timber accent there as well. And again, that was from Invermere. So we're going to take another move. We're going to go to another continent again, kind of going backwards now. But I had to show Russian examples because more than anybody else in our sharing platform, the Russians post everything, whether it's a coffee meeting or the biggest project in St. Petersburg. Those guys are prolific posters, so they really deserved a mention in today's presentation. And our Russian colleagues show examples of their large region's use of timber projects in all shapes and sizes, from very traditional to quite modern. And as you can see, main photo here is a very traditional Russian log home with all the intricate dental work and detailed work up in the eaves. It's quite unique. And then to the right of that, a masonry home, but with these super cool eyebrow arches in the roof line. And of course, they would have covered that in slate after the fact for a super durable roof. From timber tennis courts to square cut log homes, the Russians celebrate the value of timber in many formats. So going across the board here, we have a kind of an art piece, that the round spherical structure, and they used our membranes and screws for that one. The massive timber tennis court houses 3 different tennis courts in that structure to be completed. Squared timber, squared logs for a commercial space in the city, square timber rather, private residence, and then of course wood for cladding and decking. And just to highlight a couple of popular tools with our Russian carpenters are the Wasp rigging device, and I know a lot of log builders specifically use a type of device or a similar device to that for rigging and erection and loading timbers. Super quick and safe when used properly, and quite an asset, almost an extra set of hands on site or at the production facility. And they also like our catch, which is a large format screw holder driver, and kind of takes some of the pressure off the arms after a while when driving these large screws that require a lot of torque and a lot of holding power. Moving again to a different continent, a different area, and these are a few examples of Australians using mass timber in commercial and public settings. So of course, Australians like their sport. I believe this grandstand is at a cricket field to be built, and I thought was the angled cantilever is pretty neat. And then on the other side of that, a very, it's cool looking, but it's plain Jane building that will be used for office space. So again, showing that timber can be used many different ways and formats, including kind of a boring old office building, but this one is CLT and mass timber, and will be a really nice office for folks to work in the future. Now, wrapping up this portion of the presentation, we will end with a 500-year-old timber bridge in Italy that recently underwent structural repair. And on the right, a brand new timber home, timber structure and timber clad home in Thailand. And I think this brief presentation shows that building with timber is alive and well all over the world and is a common material that spans continents, cultures, and time. The future of this industry is looking strong, and I think you would all agree is exciting to be part of. And again, thank you so much for coming on today and your attention and your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I know, Mira, you had emailed me a question about safety gear and harnesses that Rothoblaas is offering. Did you want Phil to speak to that at all?
Yes, I saw some of the harnesses at a Timber Framers Guild build in October, and I haven't seen anything in this production about it, but I'd like you to speak to or show us any of the new High Aerial Act protection gear.
Sure, we can do that. Yeah, it's kind of as I pointed out at the get-go, we have various different categories, and fall protection is one of them. And we have some, I would say, good quality, safe, comfortable. Comfort is kind of the big thing, I think, on these ones, because if it's not comfortable, workers tend not to wear it. So it doesn't matter how safe it is if you're not wearing it. Options that we have. And I can speak to that, or I might just have to come back and do a whole new presentation on that, because it is a kind of a wide world. I can spend a bit of time going into that if we like. Just before I do that, do we want to talk about anything else from these presentations before I kind of click away from them?
Phil, Kelly Marcineau here with Panaboat. If we were wanting to talk to you sort of one-on-one, maybe about some products and stuff just with our team, can we just contact you, set that up, or do you have sort of a regular sample set that you send out, or what would you recommend?
Well, you guys can definitely, first of all, you still have a discount with me. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, we do. We actually have it. I didn't bring it up here, but yes. Yeah.
I remember.
Sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just, I would say email me kind of what you're thinking about roughly, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, that was from our the last BC Long and Timber Town
Mhm.
in person back at Chase.
That
So
was
this is
10 years
our,
ago, wasn't it?
yeah, exactly. This is our stand-in doing these monthly workshops.
I know, it's not as much fun.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Phil.
No problem.
If there's no other comments, no, I don't know if everyone's able to stay for what Mira was asking about with the safety stuff, but I do want to just take a second here to thank Phil and to thank Rothoblaas for their sponsorship and their support of our industry and our association and contributing to our education and sharing of information with you guys while we try and maintain the status quo until we can get back together for a proper conference and see everybody in person. So thank you, Phil, and thank you, Rothoblaas.
Well, you're welcome. We're happy to be part of it, and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, so I don't know if you had a couple of the items you wanted to share on the safety side of things.
Sure.
And then if we like, if Mira wants to get further information from that, I can exchange emails for you guys so you can share it with her directly as well.
There is a lot. I can't say exactly what you were looking at before, Mira. I will say a lot of ours is focused on working with timber structures at the same time. So, you can be involved with fall protection almost anywhere. But some of our solutions do speak specifically to timber buildings. So they work with wood is what I'm trying to get at. And again, I don't know exactly what you looked at, but just example here.
What I saw was a safety harness that someone was demonstrating that she found very comfortable. I asked because one of the biggest issues I see in the industry on site is lack of protective gear, and fall protection gear is a relatively new concept for many log builders.
Right.
I edit log building news for the ILBA, and we cannot print photos in which there's no protection
Interesting.
gear worn.
And that's probably a lot of them, I'm guessing.
Pardon me?
That's probably a lot of your examples, I'm guessing, with guys not tied off, kind of like the one example I showed, honestly, which was maybe not ideal, but
well, also years
showed
of
it so you
hearing
know not to do.
When I fell off my building. Yeah, when I fell off the building the first time, kind of stories.
And we hope it's not we hope it's the last, let's say, but that you get back on the roof. It could be something as simple as I like these type options here. So I'll just go backwards. A net, depending on the size of the structure, super simple. Technically, you don't need to be wearing a harness at that point. It's a little more designed for the commercial setting. But I like this idea as well. It's just basically a temporary guardrail system that you can put up, use again and again and again throughout your projects. You put a 2x4 or 2x6 in there, and you can clamp this, you can screw this to timber or masonry or concrete. And again, something that, would maybe even today with the price of lumber, you don't want to be cutting up 2x4s or 2x6s for too many things that are going to be thrown out down the road. So something like this kind of almost forces you to use them, which is a good thing. And again, in some places you just can't have people.
It's mostly when it's mostly on the roof structure, structural members that.
Yeah.
I'll get skyhooks would be nice, but nobody has an effective one yet.
Okay. Just point of the guardrails, because On some roofs, you might not be able to fasten a line or it's going to get in the way. So guardrails work as kind of a perimeter safety system where you don't need to be individually tied off. So it is an option there. And let me just get down a little farther here, Mira, going through the entire catalog to show.
Oh yeah,
And
it's not showing on our screen. Your
Oh,
presentation is still showing.
oh, okay. Not sure why that is. Let me get back to you. Sorry about that.
One of the things that I know is that at some of the schools, they're not even allowing ladders on site anymore. They're using lifts or scaffolding.
Okay. Let me get back here. Can you see the catalog now?
Yes.
Okay. And with all our catalogs, they're pretty involved. I will say quite technical. You can really get into it, whether you want to or not. You can kind of go deep inside the theory as well. So as far as harnesses go, we have the most basic to the more, let's say, professional, to the more technical. And these are the ones I like. I just sold a couple of these last week to a builder who works both in the States and Canada. And really the idea was comfort on these ones. So these have padded legs, padded hips, padded shoulder protection or straps. So again, at the end of the day, you're going to want to wear it where it's not going to hurt you while you wear it, or it's not going to rub on you while you wear it, which means you keep it on all day. And again, a kit like that gives you almost everything you need to be safe on a roof, whether it's a 1212 or 212. So is that something you were looking at, Mira, something similar to that?
I think it's important that everyone know about these kinds of things because the best fall protection gear is the one you're willing to wear. Definitely. And I had an interesting story from a builder who had a little run-in with BC WorkSafe just a little while ago. And I would say overall, the BC WorkSafe people were quite fair. His main point was, I want to avoid injuries. I'm not going to bug you until I see something very unsafe. And at that point, he actually did intervene and make a few notes. He didn't shut down the job site or anything like that, but he did force the builder to take a few precautions, and they did, and it was obvious. So these folks aren't trying to work against you or ruin your business, but they definitely don't want to see anyone hurt. So, there is, whether it's from us, whether it's from somebody else, there are some pretty basic ideas to make sure everyone goes home at the end of the day, and that's really what it's all about. Just to note, when I'm on this picture, helmets really is almost number one, I would say, and something that is rarely used on a lot of job sites, especially smaller ones. So it's one thing to have a hard hat, but our North American ones are, I would say, quite basic, quite cheap, and usually end up on the floor, kind of the first thing to hit the floor if there ever was an accident. So just an example of some of our helmets here, or let's say a European style helmet. Chin strap, number one, that helmet is not going to come off your head if you just bend over to get something or have a fall or duck out of the way quickly. It's going to stay on your head where it should be. And they can be outfitted with visors, so eye protection and of course ear protection, and all on the same unit. So you're not looking for three different pieces at that point. It can all be integral. Again, so you have it all on your head. You have the ear protection, you have the eye protection. If we're talking about COVID regulations, we even have a full faced visor that some folks were using as an alternative to masks
on job sites in the early stages, at least, because it did cover your face, kind of like the shields that that we saw during COVID. So, you know, if nothing else, have a good helmet. Whether you buy it from me or anybody, you know, protecting your noggin is almost as important as fall protection, I would say, if not more important, because it's just the smallest things, the smallest accidents, and I've seen them, unfortunately, on job sites firsthand, can have long-lasting effects, which is pretty simple to avoid, really. And there you see a couple examples of those visors I spoke of.
Yeah, so if Mira,
Well,
if it's
I
okay,
hear on job sites that the arborist helmets are the ones that they are willing to wear. And these are styled very much like those.
You're correct. Yeah, exactly.
so Mira, if it's okay with you, what I'll do is share your information with Phil, and
Great.
then perhaps he can put some information together for you for maybe a guest article regarding the safety stuff for the ILBA.
That would be great. I would be certainly willing to write an article about it and share it with you as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, we can definitely do something there.
Okay.
What-
So if
Let
there's,
me give you an example. When the ILBA met in Germany, there was about there were 3 or 4 days of workshop things going on, and we couldn't publish any of the photos from them.
Interesting. Yeah, it's too bad. But I understand that we kind of have the same thing within social media, that guys got to be wearing the proper equipment to display it. So that is an interesting point.
And that's just about photographs, not even about life safety.
And just lastly on this subject, I'll just point out this wing anchor point. So it's a single anchor point, and to me this is a great one for wood buildings, for timber buildings, because you can fasten it with one big structural screw or a threaded rod or something like that. And to me, I'd actually leave this in the structure for future maintenance. That, you know, your roofer, your chimney cleaner, whoever can tie to in the future, and, you know, feel confident that they're not going anywhere after the fact. And these are relatively inexpensive. They're ANSI certified. You can be used almost anywhere in the world, and just another kind of option that we have to work with different types of materials, but to a degree timber specific.
no, that's great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, if there's no further questions, thanks again, Phil. Thank you again, Rothoblaas. And yeah, we'll get a survey out. And I think Rothoblaas had some information they wanted me to distribute to all the attendees. So I'll do the survey and that information at the same time and get the meeting uploaded to YouTube so that those who were tied up in business meetings and couldn't attend can watch it. And I think that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, any questions, comments, ideas, pass them on. I'd be happy to hear from everyone, and hopefully see you in person in the near future.
Yeah, so you're okay with me sharing your email address with the people who attended?
Sure, absolutely. Please do.
Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your long weekend.
Only when I can get out of the country, Phil.
Thanks so much,
I'm on the
Phil.
other side of the border.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay.
Take care.
bye.
Thank you,
Hey.
Michelle.
Talk to you soon, Phil.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.